Hi, everyone. It's Josh Schachter, CEO of UpdateAI. I'm really excited about our episode today. I'm here with the co-founder and CEO of nuffsaid, Chris Hicken. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
And thank you for including us, Josh.
So nuffsaid is doing some amazing things. You guys are out in market now. You're helping to measure the value that's delivered to customers. We want to get into a conversation about value delivered to customers, about customer success, and how we can really expand the footprint of customer success, what companies are doing and are not doing in that sense. And we're also going to talk about product market fit. I really love, you have a very interesting perspective on PM fit and an opportunity for companies and for the customer success function as it relates to product market fit. So our show is called Unchurned because it's all about being raw and all about ultimately building relationships. And so I want to kind of get us warmed up here a little bit with a rapid fire round so we can get to know Mr. Chris Hicken. So
yeah, let's do it.
Let's go very quickly here. Yeah, let's do it. Where were you raised and where do you live now?
Right. So the first 6 years of my life, I lived in a very poor area of Caracas, Venezuela. So my first language was Spanish. My parents were peace and justice workers. So they did work with developing countries, especially in very poor areas. But most of my growing, let's just say after 6 or 7 years old, I've been in the States, mostly in California. Although about 3 years ago, we got another place out in Salt Lake City where we're living the mountain life now.
With a lot of other great tech companies out there alongside you, alongside the Silicon Slopes, as I'm told it's called.
Yeah, it's an incredibly interesting area from a tech perspective because unlike the Bay Area, where a lot of the hub of tech is centered around like hardcore tech, engineering, and product, out here in Salt Lake City, a lot of the companies, a lot of the core discipline or functional strength is around go-to-market skill. So you get a lot of companies with, strong products, but really, really good go-to-market engines.
Why do you think that is? What's the history of that?
Oh, yeah. Well, probably the biggest thing is, Utah, especially once you get out of Salt Lake City, has been, very high percentage of LDS. So Mormon religion folks. And one of the parts of their tradition is they do a year or two missions where they travel to other parts of the world and they preach about their faith. And what ends up happening is, you have these young people going out and learning other languages and learning how to, sell a difficult product, right? It's hard to sell religion. People are very resistant. You get a lot of no's. And so people come back with a thick skin. They come back with sales skills. They come back with skills on how to work with people. And that ends up just making for really, really great customer success people, really good salespeople, really good SDRs, really good marketers. So that culture has just evolved naturally here because of the traditions of the Mormon faith.
That's really fascinating. That makes so much sense. I would never have thought about that. But as you described,
a lot of the tech companies here, no surprise, are down in Provo, which is about an hour south, a little less than an hour south of Salt Lake City, which is right near BYU, which is the biggest, kind of LDS focused university. So you've got kids who graduate at 22, they've gone on their mission, they've acquired all these great skills, and they're ready to go to work.
Right. And I know Ancestry.com was one of the first big companies out in that area, which I think
they were, yeah. Ancestry.com, you got Pluralsight out here, you've got Omniture, which is acquired by Adobe. You've got a couple of other new upstarts like Domo, and I'm blanking on a couple others. Weave. Yeah. So anyway, there are a lot of cool startups here in Salt Lake.
Cool. All right, we're gonna try to go rapid fire here. What was your first?
Okay. Yeah. That was a very rapid fire. Right.
You know what? It was interesting. I wanted to dive deeper. You threw me off with I grew up in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Caracas, Venezuela. I wasn't going to just let that go in a second, right?
All right. Next rapid fire question.
What was your first?
Okay. I worked as a landscaper for a guy that my parents mentored in Venezuela who ended up a really smart kid, found his way to the US, started a landscaping business, and I worked for him when I was 15.
What time do you go to bed?
Usually, it depends on work. I mean, the way that it works, I've got a 2-year-old, so I take care of the 2-year-old in the evening time. I've got the night shift. After he goes to bed, I put in a couple more hours of work, and whenever I hit the wall, that's when I go to bed. But it's usually 11 or 12.
What's your favorite hobby?
Either scuba diving or sport driving.
And I saw your recent video of your Galapagos Islands expedition. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It was an amazing trip.
All right, last question for you here. Because our show and our trade that you and I are both in is all about building relationships, outside of any of your family members, what's a relationship that you cherish the most?
Yeah, I have a very long answer to this, but the short version is I'm a big believer in mentorship. And there are different tiers of mentorship that I think are important. And so I have very strong relationships with mentors that I've developed over the last 15 years, and I very much cherish and I learn from those relationships constantly.
We can dive into that one. Let's call that out. So tell us about a mentor who's taught you a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So the way that I think about mentorship is you should have someone who's about at your stage of development. So someone that you can use as a sounding board, someone who is 2 or 3 years ahead of you. So has the person who has the job that you want to have. And then someone who's a lot older than you, someone who can take a look at the big picture and say, look, big picture, this is what you need to be focusing on. And so one of the people that I'll focus on is the person who's, a couple years ahead of me, a guy named Terry Flynn. He was a serial CEO, but interesting background, did some work in theater and did a lot of consulting work. And he's just a really smart guy who's process oriented, who can think like a CEO. And over the years, he's helped me see around so many corners that I wouldn't have been able to see around myself because I hadn't gone through it yet. And so he's, as a first-time CEO, I've been an early stage executive, but I'm currently a first-time CEO. He's helped me see around a lot of corners that I otherwise would not have been able to see.
Yeah, that's great. So you were the president and chief operating officer of usertesting.com. You have been a mentor, an advisor, an investor in many startups. And now you're the founder and CEO of your own, of nuffsaid, which is gaining traction in our market. So what drew you to creating nuffsaid? What is your mission as you guys see it?
Yeah, the thing that started me down this path was at user testing. As the company was scaling, what I noticed was that people in every department, as the organization got bigger, it got harder and harder for people to focus on work that mattered. So they were busy. Everyone was working 10, 12 hours plus, but we weren't getting work done that mattered. So what started me down the path was I wanted to solve that problem. And I've always been very passionate about the customer success department in general. It's, near and dear to my heart. I personally am passionate about customers. So we started with the customer success department first, and we had this roadmap of, 5 or 6 products that we wanted to build for customer success. And one of them, the one that's taken off the most, is a product that solves, again, a problem that I'm very passionate about, which is that as a company scales up, everyone loses touch with the humans that are using your product. And we end up using data to try to guess what the customer's experience is. And what do I mean by that? We look at product usage data. We look at time to value. We look at health scores. So we've got all these numbers to represent our customers, but we don't have a way to connect with the human experience. And so nuffsaid is solving that problem by making it possible for anyone at the company to be in touch with the actual customer experience that's getting delivered and the humans that are using the products. So, and we don't have to get into how that product actually works right now, but that's the problem that we're going after. And that's what I'm personally passionate about.
Yeah, I share that passion. That's the product that we're after too, in a very different way. Is about building those relationships, right? Like that touch point between. At the end of the day, we're just humans connecting, right? Whether you're company, vendor, et cetera. So I fervently agree with you. Let's shift over to talking about customer success at large. We are both. Embedded in the CS community. And one of the things that attracted me to customer success was just that outreach of the community, how they bring you in and really welcome you. And I've seen that community growing over the past year or so that we've been really involved. And I also still feel like there's something more, right, for customer success, that it's just now starting where it needs to ultimately get to as far as its presence and clout and influence in the organization. And I know you share a somewhat similar view. How do you feel about where customer success is today in respect to where it really should be or will be or is going?
Yeah. I do have a lot to share on this, and some of it's good news and I think some of it's bad news. I do agree with you that the customer success community has grown, and I think the community is very welcoming to each other, and it's a helpful community. Also, customer success has been developing as a function for over a decade now, and we're starting to see some problems with how we've built the function. What I mean by that is a lot of customer success leaders believe that customer success should not own a number. They should not be quota carrying. In fact, that might even be the dominant perspective now. But the end result of this thinking and the way that our focus so far, right? What do customer success teams focus on? Faster onboarding, better QBRs, better playbooks, better health scores, better product usage data. As a result of that, the customer success team in many organizations doesn't own a number that the CEO or the CFO care about. And so the department is underfunded. It's one of the first departments where heads get cut when the tough economy comes. And the executive team doesn't value the function in the way that I think it should be valued. And also you're starting to see some posts from, very prominent companies. Snowflake right now, I think, among public companies, has the highest net retention rate of any public company, and the CEO is on record publicly saying that customer success should not be a department. Customer success should not exist at all, and it should be a combination of sales plus customer support working together.
I didn't realize. So, I knew that Snowflake had an incredible NRR. I think they were at like 160% or something like that, but I didn't realize that their CEO is on record saying that. That's a major statement.
Yeah. So Yep. And we're seeing more examples now of customer success leaders who, in the eyes of their CEOs, aren't strong enough. And so customer success is now just another arm of the revenue function. So those are some of the challenges that the customer success team needs to face in the next decade. And I think it's up to consultants, vendors, and thought leaders in the customer success category to help shape the way that customer success could evolve in the next decade, so it doesn't become this group of nice people in the corner who don't really do much important, but they're really good at being nice to customers. And unfortunately, that's the perception of a lot of executive teams, CEOs, CFOs, and investors. So
the nature of so it's interesting your comments there, because it is a double-edged sword, right? So what attracted me to customer success was how warm and welcoming the community was, and how relationship focused we are, and at the same time, maybe it comes at the cost of being too nice in some way, focused more on that humanistic approach, as opposed to, like you're saying, really advocating for yourself, like sales is of course not afraid to do, and has made them so critical. I think What's also interesting is, in my view, customer success has not gotten the credit that it's due because it's a multi-attribution problem in many ways. You know, in sales, you convert, you sign a contract, and that's a single metric of conversion. The salesperson, got this other person to sign on the dotted line. You know, I've converted that. Mm-hmm. In customer success, it's fuzzy. It's fuzzy. What is conversion? I suppose it's renewal, but also it's preventing churn, which is similar. But, you know, but also, like you said, it's also satisfaction and all these other things that are just a little bit fuzzier. And they're correlated to more than just the customer success manager. They're correlated to the product. They're correlated to the overall experience. And yet but we do still know how important customer success is in that equation. So it's tough. I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are on what is that roll-up metric that could solve this, or what are some of the ways that we could work around this?
Yeah, well, I think I have two strong opinions about this. The first one is how customer success can drive a different operating philosophy within the company. And the second one is the measurement or the scorecard that customer success could bring to the executive team that the team will actually care about. And so, do you care which order we go in?
Let's go in the order that you listed them. I mean, whatever order you want to go in works for me.
All right. Well, let's start with your question, which is what number? Okay, so what numbers does customer success own today if they don't own renewals? Well, they bring time to value, health score, net retention rate, which a lot of times they don't actually own it if they're not doing renewals.
Which is another
NPS score, CSAT score. The thing is, none of those numbers appear on the CEO's morning dashboard. None of those numbers are things that the CFO is going to give you budget for. So what are we doing? Like, why do we exist? We own all these numbers that no one cares about. Certainly investors don't care about any of those numbers. So what do investors care about? Well, my take is that customer success, when it becomes more mature over time, should become a product market fit machine for your business. What I mean by that is the customer success executive should own product market fit for the business. And the reason why I'm saying that is the customer success leader is the only leader who has the full view of the entire customer journey with your company. So they can see what happened in the sales process, what the experience is with the product, how they feel about pricing, how they feel about the company's positioning, how technical debt and bugs and issues are affecting the customer's experience and the customer's journey, how are services, do customers trust the services that are being delivered? Are the best people assigned to the account? There are literally 50 different key experiences that each customer goes through, and the customer success executive has visibility, if they want, into all of them. So what does it mean to be accountable for product market fit? The customer success executive can and should score the quality of the experience delivered at each point. If the customer success executive can do that, they can score each moment in the journey, then the customer executive can also see, okay, as a business, this is where we are accumulating risk, relationship risk, or churn risk, and this is where we're accumulating opportunities for growth and expansion. So once a month, the customer success executive comes with their scorecard to the executive team and says, product, I need more resources here. Services, I need more resources here. And oh, by the way, marketing, we're starting to see this competitive risk creep up over here in the enterprise segment. We're going to need some focus on that over here. So rather than being a reactive executive that owns numbers that no one cares about, now the CS executive owns the product market fit scorecard and is directing the resources of the business to improve net retention rate and the overall quality of the experience.
I really love that. You're suggesting for customer success to play air traffic control. And
yes,
is customer success currently equipped to do that? Or does that require a different type of skill set in some ways?
I think customer success has all of the skill needed today to pull this off. It's just about orienting the department to focus on running a better business rather than running a better customer success department, meaning less focus and emphasis on, time to value rather than going from 40 days to 30 days, or rather than getting, our health scores from 78% green to 81% green. Well, let's actually take a step back and look at what are the factors that lead to lower time to value, slower time to value, worse health scores, and use that data to drive internal decisions. So there's very little new skill or capabilities or tooling needed for the CS executive to pull this off.
Are you practicing this at nuffsaid?
We are indeed. Yeah. We have our own product market. Yeah. So we have a product market fit scorecard. We're measuring 18 points in the customer journey. Our customer success lead is scoring each of those moments. Every week at our company huddle, we review what our company scorecard is on delivering value to customers. And we make frequent adjustments to address the needs of customers in real time. And that can really be across the board: products, services, pricing, paying off technical debt, competitive threats, all those things.
That's great. My background is as a product owner, product leader. And so my first thought that comes to mind is, okay, well, wait, are you trampling on other domains then in some ways? I'm playing a little bit of the devil's advocate here.
Yeah, well, I've asked this question of CEOs and COOs, which is, which executive owns product market fit? And the answer is always nobody. Now, if you ask the executive team who owns product market fit, you might get the marketing leader raising their hand, and you might get the product leader raising their hand, maybe. But when you start asking them questions like, okay, well, how are you dealing with problems about services delivered? Or how are you dealing with problems of pricing? Then the product leader realizes, like, well, yeah, you're right. I don't own product market fit. I only own the product. And when you start asking the marketing executive, like, hey, what decisions are you making around, tech debt, paying off technical debt, or feature roadmap? They realize, like, oh yeah, that's right. I actually don't. I mean, I own positioning and I own branding and pricing, but I don't own the whole customer journey. So there are pieces of this where product and marketing might feel like, hey, that's really my responsibility. And if I was in the seat of the customer leader, I'd say, you're right. I'm not accountable for this. All I'm doing is I'm surfacing what customers are saying so that you can take action with customer data, as opposed to a Gartner research report or some highly paid person's opinion.
Yeah. I think this is really important. I'm still stuck, honestly, on that snowflake thing, Chris, because I remember watching Dave Kellogg's presentation on the importance of CS and correlation of NRR to enterprise value, and showing Snowflake as the really golden child of that. And I've used that in my presentations, and I've used that in my VC pitches to show that customer success is on the rise. But then to know that the CEO of Snowflake, who has the ultimate benchmark in that, is advocating against CS, you kind of just shook my world with that fun fact there.
Well, and then you also have Tomas Tangs at Redpoint, who also published an article about a month ago, maybe it was 6 weeks ago, that showed that customer success probably is not a needed function when you're dealing with enterprise accounts. It's more valuable when you're talking about mid-market and SMB, but probably not necessary in the enterprise. So there is a movement right now to shift resources away from customer success and give more resources to account management and to customer support. And if customer success isn't proactive right now, it will be a much less important department in 5 years.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Customer success has done so many wonderful things. If it gets absorbed by other functions, but is still able to deliver the same outcomes, then maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. Here's
the it actually matters a lot, And also I'll get to my second point here, which is that the world of software needs a new operating model to grow their businesses. So if we take a giant step back, what do investors care about? You know, for you, even for you, Josh, your investors put money into UpdateAI, and they said to you, I'm putting money into your company because I expect you to grow the value of your company and increase the value of my investment. So in the eyes of your investors, you are a value creation machine. They want you to double, triple, quadruple, 10x, 100x their investment. So you are highly incentivized to grow the value of your company. In the early days of SaaS, investors rewarded CEOs who grew their businesses at any cost, right? And so that led to a sales-led growth motion where companies were pumping sales and marketing full of tons of budget. Like, who cares how much you're spending? Because the only thing that investors care about is top-line growth, and who cares how much money you're burning? And then right around 2015, Wall Street started, these IPOs started happening, and Wall Street's like, man, guys, it's too expensive to grow these SaaS companies. So there was this, the shift. You start seeing the rule of 40, what came out in 2015, and boom, now all of a sudden, Wall Street values companies that can grow efficiently. And no surprise, shortly after that, product-led growth became the new operating model. Where now, because of network effects and having products that are stupid simple to install and use and get value, now suddenly you've got this whole category of product-led growth. The problem is that most software companies, I would say 95% of software companies, that might actually be a little bit low. Most software companies do not have a product that's appropriate for product-led growth. It requires integrations or training and onboarding. If you have an education department, if you have an onboarding team, if you have integrations, you are not product-led and you never will be. So most companies don't have a product that's appropriate for product-led growth. But Wall Street is still only rewarding companies to grow efficiently. So a new operating model is needed to drive growth. And I have coined that term customer-led growth, although the reality is this movement has been happening for a while, and I'm just giving it a name. And in the customer-led growth movement, a business orients itself kind of like a product-led growth company around obsessing around the value that they've delivered to customers. And so all of the company's metrics, the way the company makes decisions, is around value delivered. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is if you don't have a team at the company who's not only measuring value delivered to customers, but obsessing about it every day, if you don't have that team, then what you're left with is a sales-led growth motion. People in the company who only care about the transaction, growing the account, and they don't care about the customers receiving value. So that's the thing that I'm worried about if the customer success department gets minimized over the next 5 to 10 years.
That makes so much sense because you mentioned UpdateAI, right? So we get investors immediately. You're on the clock to grow revenues, and no investor is asking, oh wait,
That's right.
And not that NPS is probably the right metric anyways, but what's the NPS of your customers? Are they satisfied? No, who gives a shit if they're satisfied? Are you growing revenues? What are your numbers? The emails that you get too, right, from these investors, which are the most annoying emails in the world to get. And you just kind of put them off until their junior associate nudges you to respond, right? But what is that email? It's what are your numbers this month? Are you on track? And it's not are you on track on customer value delivery,
exactly.
Right? And so then that becomes that pressure goes downward. Like it's downward to the head of sales and then to your sales team and it percolates across the entire organization. And it's not pure. It's not pure. And I think what you're saying is, go ahead.
Well, you're right. If the focus is just sales dollars, then you're going to do stupid stuff. If the focus is value delivered, then you're going to create this wonderful ecosystem where customers get value. They tell their friends. They are happy to be references. Their accounts grow over time. So you have this kind of natural growth that happens almost like product-led growth, but you're not doing it through a simple to use product. You're doing it through ensuring that you're always delivering value.
This movement that you're creating. You're labeling it, and I love that. You're creating this category. customer-led growth. Hashtag customer-led growth. Sign me up for that. And it is important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just giving a name to something that's been, kind of percolating up for 4 or 5 years.
That makes sense. And this idea that if there needs to be the standard bearer of that, because otherwise the pressure will be too much to push up against if there's not somebody who is obsessed and that angel on the shoulder always checking in, are we doing the right thing for the customer? So I appreciate that. Chris, this was a great conversation.
That's right.
You opened my eyes to many things here in this discussion, and I wish you the best of luck as you continue to grow your customer-led growth of Nuffsaid and help shape this community. Thank you so much for being on the episode.
Yeah, and thanks. And as a company, but also just me as an entrepreneur, we're always cheering on other companies in the category that will help elevate the customer success function. So thanks for what you're doing at Update, for helping to build better relationships between companies and customers.